What's up? I'm Amanda.
I'm Emily.
And
Bianca.
And Bianca, and this is Two Moms, One Mic, and we're here with Bianca today, who just became a mom. 3 months? Is he 3 months now?
Yes.
3 months ago. And she went on a little bit of a roller coaster because her son was a preemie and spent how much time in NICU?
He was there from April to the end of June, so about April, May, 3 months.
About 3 months in NICU. So she is
Oh my
here
God,
to
so
share her
he's
story.
like 3 months out.
Of the NICU.
Yeah.
Well, he's like technically only like 3 weeks old if you look at his corrected age, but then he's actually 3 months old based on his birth age.
Oh my lord.
So now I'm dealing with 2 ages until he's like 2 years old. So you have to look at like corrected for development and then birth for like everything else.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's confusing because you look at him and you're like, oh, you should be doing so much more because he's 3 months old, but then I have to remember like, oh no, you're only like 3 weeks old technically. So it's
okay.
It messes with your brain a little bit.
Yeah, I'm trying to process.
I had a hard time being like, how many months you can people like, oh, how old is he? 32 months. You know what I mean? Like, let alone doing these 8. Oh my god.
Well, that's why, because like when people see him now, like the very first time I took him out, I went to a bridal shower and he has like I have a friend who her baby was born a week before him, so she's like actually 3 months. And so, like, people were like, oh, how old is he? And I'm like, oh, he's 3 months old. And then they would just, like, stop and stare. And I'm like, he was a preemie because he's small. Like, he's only 9 pounds. So he's, like, he looks like a newborn, but he's 3 months old. So you have to, like, always kind of be like, oh, he was a preemie. He's
you feel
technically...
like you have to explain.
Yeah, he's technically only 3 weeks old. That's why he's so small. Like, people think he's, like... Yeah.
At this point, you should have put a sign on the stroller.
Just like have a QR code. Just scan the QR to
push this button for info, and then like a recording comes
on.
Nosy bees.
On him that says, I am a preemie.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start.
Let's start from the beginning.
Yeah, so that's literally what I was just gonna say.
Yeah.
Okay. So, so I had a really good pregnancy. Like, my first 3 months was like immaculate. Everyone was like, "Oh, how are you doing? Are you sick?" But I was like, "No, actually, like I had living
my best life.
Yeah, no morning sickness.
Can tell I'm pregnant.
Yeah, barely even felt pregnant. I was like, "No, I'm doing great. Like, wonderful." And then around 20, so I had just done my like maternity photo shoot, which was at 20 weeks because we did like a half-baked photo shoot. And then at 22 weeks, so the end of my 22nd week, I was at a conference for work, and I was fine, like I didn't feel anything. Then I came home the Monday. On the Tuesday, I went to the bathroom and I had like increased discharge, and I was like, okay, this is weird. I'm like, I've had this throughout my whole pregnancy. I'm like, but this feels like I literally like peed myself. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay. I'm like, so I was doing like I just did what I normally do. I went online. I'm like, increased discharge during pregnancy, like all these different things.
Start going down the rabbit hole.
Google.
And then they were the biggest thing that I saw was they said change your underwear, and then if you go to the bathroom again 30 minutes later, and if it's like the same, then you need to go there's something wrong.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I went to the bathroom again, and I was like, okay, well, this is like, it was like I had peed myself, like not like a full gush, but it was I could feel it. So I went to my mom, and I was like, I actually called Cordelucci because I was at the point where you could just call L&D and see triage. And they were like, oh, well, we can't, like, diagnose you over the phone. You have to come in. So I went to my mom, and I'm okay, I'm going to go to the hospital because they're telling me that I have to go and get checked.
Are you panicking at this point?
No, I think I was, like, to be honest, I think I was in, like, Delulu land until he literally, like, came in and told me what had happened, and then I just, like, broke down. But I got there, they admitted me, and then, not admitted me, they brought me into triage, and then the doctor comes in, and I told him what I was experiencing, and he was like, okay, well, we're going to test to see if your water broke. I was like, okay. So he leaves the room. He's like, I'm going to go. They had to get, like, a swab. I look at my mom. I'm like, is this guy, like, on crack? I'm like, my water didn't break. I started laughing. I was like, this is crazy. I'm like, this is going to be all for nothing. I'm like, I came here and I'm wasting, like, 3 hours for absolutely nothing. So me and my mom are laughing. He comes back in. He swabs me. Then he comes back. And mind you, this doctor was, like, he had the worst bedside etiquette. So he came in and he was just like, and I'm like, what the heck? Like, my mom was like, and he's like, your water broke. I'm like, huh? And my mom's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, your water broke. I'm like, no, it didn't. I'm like, how is that even possible?
Oh my god.
So basically their swab came back positive for amniotic fluid, which meant that I was leaking from somewhere. So then he was like, you're gonna have to, like, he's like, oh, basically he like mumbled a bunch of stuff. And then he was like, you're gonna have to make a decision. And I'm like, a decision about what? Like, I said to him, I'm like, what are you talking about?
Wow, he's just laying it on you. And
yeah. And then he kept like spewing out, he's like, oh, well, you know, at 23 weeks, a lot of babies can be born with disabilities. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you just told me that my water broke. I'm like, and now you're telling me, I'm like, is what you're asking me that basically, like, do I want to end my pregnancy or continue with my pregnancy? And he's like, well, you have to make a decision. I'm like, okay, well, I'm like, I'm not having an abortion, so tell me what.
He was
tell
like
me what
going
I need
that
to do.
route?
Yeah, because he was like,
Holy
oh my
shit.
god.
he was, and you know what, like, pushing forward now, I realize why he did that, because a lot of the women that I met when I was at the hospital later, it was the same thing. Like, their water broke, and instantly it was like, okay, well, it's either you have an abortion or you continue and, like, basically see what happens, because you can't predict what's going to happen. So I basically said, I looked at my mom and I was like, I even called my husband and I'm like, well, I'm not ending this pregnancy. I'm like, I got halfway through my pregnancy. I'm like, he's basically like, he was 3 pounds when he was born. So at that point he was probably a little over 1.5 pounds, maybe 2 pounds. Because he was on the bigger side too when they had scanned him. Okay. And I was like, I'm halfway through my pregnancy. I'm like, it's literally a baby. I'm like, that's not happening.
Yeah.
So I said to him, I'm like, you need to tell me what I need to do. And
yeah, like, what are my options of not aborting?
Yeah.
And how are we keeping this child alive right now?
Yeah, so then he was like, so basically that's when they said, he's like, you have to be transferred. He's like, at Cordalucci, their NICU is a level 2C. So they only birth from 30 weeks and onwards. So anything before that, you get transferred to either Mount Sinai or Sunnybrook. So he was like, you're going to have to go to those 2 hospitals, be admitted, and you're going to have to stay there until you give birth. And that's when I like, he left the room and I just started bawling, because I was like, I'm due in July. I'm like, I'm going to have to be, and this was March break. So it was like the 2nd week of March. I was like, I'm going to be stuck in a hospital until July. Like, this is crazy. So I'm crying, my mom's crying, I have my husband on the phone, I'm like, my water broke, he's like, are you having the baby right now? I'm like, no, I'm like, I'm not, I had no signs of labor.
Yeah.
They actually didn't even tell me at Cordalucci that my cervix was still closed, which was really important, because if I was dilated, it could have shown that I was, like, taking steps towards going into labor.
Yeah.
So my cervix was closed, but they didn't tell me that until Mount Sinai. So my husband gets there, the doctor comes back in. My husband was very concerned at that point, because we had always had a lot of discussions around disabilities and what would happen if our child, like, when we did our genetic testing and all of that stuff. So now he was freaking out, because this doctor kept spewing out, like, oh, your child's going to have a disability, And my husband's like, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean? Like, what's happening? Because we didn't, there was nothing. Like, they didn't explain anything.
Yeah.
So I just said, I'm like, okay. I'm like, just transfer me to where I need to go and we'll figure it out. So they came back in. They're like, Mount Sinai has a bed. I got transferred by ambulance down to Mount Sinai. We get there. And that's when everything started, like, getting a lot better, because they were so much more, I guess, like, they explained everything a lot more. So in the beginning, it was very confusing, because I got to Mount Sinai. They tested me again. They checked my cervix, and they were like, all of our tests are coming back negative. Like, if you had come here, we would say that your water didn't break. And I was like,
wow.
I'm like, what the hell is happening? So then they said, because the test that they did at Cordalucci was a pretty accurate test that they didn't have at Mount Sinai, they were like, we're not gonna send you home, because that came back positive. So if that was positive, it's most likely that, yeah, your water did break. But all of our tests are coming back
crazy,
negative.
like, the discrepancy of, like, types of testing, like, that are available to some hospitals and, like, not available to others. Like, that's wild.
Like, the one at Cordalucci was just a swab. Like, it felt like I was getting a pap.
Yeah.
And then when I got to Mount Sinai, they did, like, a full, like, they went in with a freaking thingy. Like, it was brutal.
Oh, Jesus
And
Christ.
they checked to see if I was dilated. And she was like, your cervix is closed. She's like, I'm not getting any positives on amniotic fluid. She's like, I don't know. But then they also did an ultrasound and checked. So they checked my fluid, and then they were like, we're going to admit you until tomorrow morning and check your fluid again to see what happens. So I ended up getting admitted. We didn't end up getting into a room until like 3 a.m.
Wow.
I get in there, then the next morning they come in. I did an ultrasound, and then my amniotic fluid had gone down. So they were like, okay, this in combination with the test from Cortellucci shows us that
so now they have a more concrete image. Wow.
But it wasn't that my amniotic sac didn't break. It was just there was a leak somewhere. So like I had somewhere.
How does that happen?
So they don't.
Did they explain how that happens?
Yeah, so they didn't know exactly because it could have been anything. But then afterwards, once I gave birth, they found out that they studied my placenta, and they found out that there were abnormalities in the way that it was growing. So that's why I went into labor.
Oh, and that would never have been seen in the typical ultrasound?
Yeah, because everything was fine. So they had to study it afterwards to figure out that it wasn't growing properly. So that's why. And it was funny because then the doctor was like, the good thing is your worst placenta is during your first pregnancy. And I'm like, oh, wow.
So the next time you will.
I was literally going to say, is this a genetic thing?
I don't know. But it is possible that it might happen again. So I'll tell you all, because I had a follow-up appointment after everything was said and done, my typical 6-week appointment. So they said a lot about if I want to get pregnant again. But yeah, so when we were there, and that was it. So then they were like, okay, well, we're going to admit you and we have to monitor you basically for signs of labor. And they were like, within the first 48 hours is the most risky, because that's the time that most women go into labor. And then after that, it's the first 7 days. And then after the first 7 days, it can basically happen at any point, but it's less of a risk. So I was in that I ended up being in that very, very small percentile because I went for another 5 weeks after I got admitted.
Wow.
Yeah. So the doctor. So once we got to Mount Sinai, we felt a lot better because then the day after all of that, they had the NICU team come in to talk to us about what would happen if the baby was born right now, because he was only at that point he was 23 weeks and 2 days. And so they kind of walked us through a NICU team would be there. If he was born, they would take him into the resuscitation room, which ended up happening anyways because he was born at 28 weeks. But after we spoke to them, we felt so much better because...
Okay, they were giving you guys more confidence.
Yeah,
and,
talking to them...
being a little bit more comprehensive on, the first one.
Yeah, especially talking to them about, the whole disability thing. And, one of the doctors has said to us, sometimes it happens. She's like, but a lot of the times it's maybe, okay, the kid needs glasses. Or maybe they need, a hearing aid. And I said to my husband, I'm like, first of all, our kid's most likely going to need glasses because I have glasses, you have glasses. It's throughout our whole entire
We're both blind.
Yeah, so I'm like, it's the odds of him needing glasses are probably higher than the fact that he was a preemie. I'm like, and if my kid needs a hearing aid, that's not a big deal to me. I'm like, what I was worried about is is he gonna have cognitive disabilities? Is there...
Yeah, they were using such a vague term, which encompasses so many different things. It's
and it's
okay,
very
well, what
scary.
are we talking about here?
It's so scary to just spew out oh, your child's gonna have a disability when I'm in a situation where this is my first pregnancy. I have no idea what the hell is going on right now, and you're just telling me, oh, your child's gonna have a disability, so either you have an abortion or you continue, and we don't know what's gonna happen. And so it was very I was scared. I was like, what the heck?
Yeah, that's very daunting.
And my husband too, after we had the conversation with the NICU doctors, we felt a lot better. And then we had to make a decision of whether or not we wanted to get the steroid injections, because when babies are born prematurely, or when your water breaks premature, they give you 2 doses of steroids, which helps with the baby's lung development. So it helps them for when they're eventually going to come out.
Yeah.
And then we also had to decide whether or not we wanted, because I think it was before 24 weeks, if the baby's born, you have to decide if you want them to do everything they can to save the baby, or if it's just you let them basically keep them comfortable. So we had to make that decision too. And I said to my husband, I'm like, we've gotten so far. I'm like, if I'm getting admitted and I'm staying here, I'm like, we're not
giving up on it.
Yeah, it's, you do whatever you have to do.
Sorry, and you knew you were having a boy at this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because we did the genetic testing really early on. It was before I was maybe
12 weeks. If you did genetic testing, you probably did that around 12 weeks, right?
Yeah, I think it was a little bit later because I did the first one right when you could, and it came back inconclusive, which scared the crap out of me. But that was only because I didn't have enough of there wasn't enough of his DNA in my blood yet. And I think I did around 15 or 16 weeks, and we found out that he was a boy. And then I had done my gender reveal like literally just before we did our maternity shoot. So everything.
Were you and your husband worried about some type of genetic thing?
No, not. I don't think not that it was like. No, I don't think because my husband has a cousin who's we don't exactly know what she has, but she developed it a little bit later on in her life.
Okay.
And I think because he saw the way that she grew up and like how dependent she was on his uncle.
You guys just want to be proactive. You'd rather just been ahead of it.
Yeah, he didn't really know if it ran in the if it was something that was like genetic, for example, or like hereditary, I guess the correct word is.
Yeah.
So we just we just wanted to be ahead of it. So we did that ahead of time just because we wanted to make sure that everything was okay. And when I did that the second time, everything came back negative, so that was fine.
Okay.
I don't remember where I was. Oh,
sorry.
So you're admitted into Mount Sinai.
You have the NICU plan.
They do the 24
off
weeks,
on things,
and you guys decided.
Yeah. Then we did the 2 steroid shots. So it was
okay.
It was 1, and then 24 hours later another one. They had come. So one thing about being like premature, having your water break prematurely is as soon as you get admitted into the hospital, you get like kind of like ambushed with all these different studies. So like the first one came to us about they wanted to do, it was so weird. It was like with the steroid shots, and they were like, they're basically trying to prove that 1 steroid shot is enough instead of 2. So they wanted us to participate in a study where like you'd either get 2 shots that were the medication, or you would get 1 shot and then 1 placebo. And I was like, no. I'm like, I'm not.
Experiment
I'm like, I'm not messing around with my baby's lungs. I'm like, this is like what if the 1 shot isn't enough? So we had denied that one. Then there was another one about if he was born before 27 weeks, something to do with his lung development. And we did participate in some of them. Like there was one that was like, they specifically fortified the food. Like, so right now they do like a standardized, basically like fortification where they add extra calories into the baby's milk.
Yeah.
But they're trying to see if like individualized fortification is better, which kind of makes sense because you should be fortifying
like catering it to the individual. Yeah.
So like taking the blood work and seeing like, oh, okay, do they need more fats, more proteins, or
not just have like a generic one size fits all type of thing.
Which I thought was great. So we ended up opting into that one, but that ended up biting us in the butt later on.
Oh God.
Yeah. So it's like after that, like I got to a point where I was like, I told my nurses, I'm like, don't send anybody else here for studies because I'm not doing any more studies. Like I've had enough. Like
I'm not your guinea pig.
I just want to focus.
Fuck off.
So after we got admitted, I spent 5 weeks at Mount Sinai, was like, it went by quick, but it also went by slow. And it was my husband was there with me every night. So the first week or so, he was there with me every day. He kind of worked from the hospital.
Yeah.
And then he went back to work, and he was like he was basically, so he's sleeping at the hospital. So he was going to work, coming back after work to the hospital, sleeping at the hospital overnight, and then getting up and going to work in the morning. So for 5 weeks, we basically lived out of a hospital room. Wow. Thankfully, the teachers, our insurance covers private rooms, so I was able to switch into, because the way that Mount Sinai works is they have 1 ward, which is like on that floor that I was in, which is like 4 rooms that all share 1 bathroom. But I ended up going into a semi-private room because I guess the ward was full at the time. Then like a week in, they come into me and they're like, oh, well, you don't have any insurance on your file, so there's a room available in the ward that we're going to move you into. And I'm like, absolutely not. So then I put my insurance on. So thankfully for like, I would say maybe 3 or 4 out of the 5 weeks, I was in a private room, which was so much better. But I was going crazy because I was like, I wasn't bedridden, so I was able to like go downstairs.
I was just gonna ask, like, were you on like bed rest? Like, were you able to like move around?
So it was weird because they told me walking is good. I wasn't leaking as much. I was barely leaking. I would get like little gushes here and there, and then every time I would go for an ultrasound, my fluid would increase. So at one point, the ultrasound tech was like, "What are you here for?" And I'm like, they call it PPROM, so it's premature rupture of the membrane, I think. And I was like, well, I'm PPROM, like my water broke at 23 weeks. And she's like, are you sure your water broke? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like,
listen, buddy, this wouldn't be my choice to just hang out here.
Yeah, and this was like 3.5 weeks in, and I was like, yeah. I'm like, I'm here because my water went from like a 6, then it went up to 9, then it went up to, right before I had it was at like 12. And they say like,
do you know what's the norm? Because I don't know.
It's kind of weird. It's like a wide range, but I think anything below, like, when I was admitted and it got low to the 6, it was like the low side of normal.
Okay.
So I think maybe anything below a 5 but it kept increasing every time, and he was growing, he was hitting all his milestones. He was also very, like the scan that I had right before I had him, he was in the 99th percentile.
Oh, okay.
So he was a bigger baby, and that's something that they said with the NICU team said, like, we really like his weight because it's going to benefit him whenever he's born,
his chances,
right?
yeah.
Because most babies, like you go to Mount Sinai and they deal with like 22, they deliver as little as 22 weeks.
Wow,
and most
crazy.
of the time, babies are like under a pound. So they're like 500 grams, 600 grams. Like my son was born at 1,370, so he was just under 2 pounds. But he was one of the bigger babies in the NICU.
Oh, wow.
So it was crazy. So I stayed there for 5 weeks, and then the Sunday before I went into labor. So I think I was in labor that whole week because I kept getting cramps, and they kept saying to me nothing was picking up on the monitor. I wasn't dilated, so they were like, I think it's just Braxton Hicks. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm like, if this is what Braxton Hicks feels like, I don't want to know what labor feels like.
Oh,
but,
so they were pretty strong then.
Yeah, they were pretty intense.
Because Braxton Hicks, you could be driving your car and you're like, oh, that fucking sucks.
Yeah, it was like a very, very strong like period cramp, but they weren't consistent at all. Like I was getting them maybe every hour, maybe every half hour. And that Sunday, actually, I went to the baby show because I got a day pass. Because my doctor was like, yeah, like we want you to be able to go out, but because it was only like 10 minutes away from the hospital, it was fine. Because she was like, don't go further than like 10, 15
down
minutes.
there, yeah.
So we went to the baby show. I didn't really walk around. We got a wheelchair, and my husband just wheeled me around because it was nice to get out, but I didn't want to do a lot of walking.
Yeah.
Little did I know I was actually like in labor that day, because then I got back to the hospital and I started getting cramps. They came to check me, and they're like, oh, you're about 2.5 centimeters dilated. And because I hadn't been dilated at all before then, they were like, okay, we're going to bring you over to labor and delivery because you're having contractions.
Oh,
they weren't coming up on the monitor, but the baby's heart rate was changing whenever I would feel one. So they were like, you're definitely having them. The monitor's just not picking up on them. So I go over to labor and delivery. They put me on magnesium. They did like a very quick bolus. So like they gave me like however much it was in half an hour. And when babies are born before 30 weeks, they have to have magnesium in order to prevent brain bleeds. So I got that, but then that also stalls labor. So I was on that for like half an hour. My contractions stopped, and then they were like, okay, well, you haven't dilated any further. Your contractions are gone, so we're going to bring you back over. The other unit was called antenatal. So I'm like, okay. We go back over. Me and my husband ended up sleeping until like 1 p.m. that day because we were in labor and delivery all night. We were exhausted. I wake up, I have lunch. Around 2:30, they start back up again. I'm like, oh my God. This was on the Monday. So I'm like, okay, they're back again. Not as intense, but they were happening about every like hour and a half, 2 hours. Some would come like every 20 minutes. Some would come every 2 hours. So it was like really weird.
Oh God.
That night at 11:30 or around 11, I was on the phone with my mom, and I said to her, I'm like, oh, like, they're here, but they're very, like, sporadic. I'm like, I'm going to try to take a shower to help with the pain a little bit, and then I'm going to go to bed. I take a shower. My husband was, like, counter-pressuring, so, like, he would grab my back and, like, push down on, like, my pressure points, and it was helping.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, this is great. Like, let me take a shower. Every time I would get one, he would come and, like, counter-pressure. Took a shower, got my PJs on, got into bed. He got into the hospital bed with me because he was like, whenever you get one, just tell me and I'll counter pressure. Around 11:30ish, 11:45, they got so bad that his counter pressure wasn't helping.
Yeah, at that point you're not even feeling anything.
And then I started crying, and I was like, you need to call the nurse because this is not, like, I haven't felt this at all, like this last week. Like, this is intense. So the nurse comes in, I'm bawling. I think she could see that, like, I was different, like, I was behaving differently than I was before.
Yeah.
So she put me on the monitor, because right away, as soon as you tell them that you're feeling any kind of cramps, they put you on the monitor to check baby. And the other thing is, when you rupture prematurely, the biggest risk is getting an infection, because now your amniotic sac is open.
Okay.
I was a little bit less of a risk because my cervix was closed in the beginning, but then once I started dilating, then the risk becomes more, because essentially anything can get up there and then get into the sac, and then if you get an infection or baby gets an infection, right away you have to go into, like, they have to get baby out. So that was the biggest risk over the 5 weeks. Then she comes in, the nurse, and I didn't know this because I was in so much pain, I wasn't even paying attention. But his heart rate was like shooting up over 200 and then coming back down, and then going up over 200 and then coming back down. So my husband told me after that, he's like, you could tell that the nurse was like kind of starting to freak out. She was trying to call the doctor. I guess the doctor was kind of occupied. So about maybe 15 minutes later, the doctor came in. She's like, okay, I'm just going to check you to see if anything's changed. I said, okay, no problem. She goes, does the cervical check, which was like, I hate cervical checks.
Oh, I know.
Yeah,
those are the worst.
They were so bad.
Those are the worst.
In that span of time, I had to get like 5 done, and I was like, okay. I'm like, if we don't think anything's changed, don't put your hands up there, because that's really painful.
It hurts.
So then she checks me, and all I remember was she turned to the nurse, and she was like, I can feel the baby's head. We need to go. And I looked at my husband, and I'm like, what did she just say? And then she looked at me, and she's like, you're about 8 centimeters dilated. She's like, we gotta go. And then she went to go push. They have like the buttons at the back for like code blue or whatever, and on that floor there was a code, I can't remember what the number was, but it was basically like immediate delivery. So they pressed it. All I remember is like 10 nurses rushed into my room at once. They get take everything off my bed, and they're like, okay, we're gonna take, so they rolled me over to labor and delivery. And I think this was the point where I just went into like Delulu land, because I was like, where are we going? What's happening? My husband's like white in the face. He's like running after the bed. They're like shooting me down like the hallway, like the back hallway between antenatal and labor and delivery. They bring me into an L&D room, and I'm like, then they're like, oh, we're gonna transfer you on to the labor and delivery bed. And then they're like, no, we're not gonna do that. We don't have time. So I'm like, what is happening? Like, what are you doing? They like pull my pants off. I'm like, then they're rolling me into the OR, and I'm like, wait, why are we going into the OR? Because at first I wanted a C-section, and then afterwards my biggest fear was that I had to have a C-section. So going into the OR, I was like, oh my god, are they like, do I have to have a C-section? Yeah. So they roll me into the OR. I'm like, wait, why are we going into here? She's like, it's just because we need to be close to the resuscitation room, because that's where baby needs to go. So I said, okay, no problem. They roll me into the OR. My husband had to put like his scrubs on, so he had to put like the coat, whatever, his shoes. Apparently he like fell and like banged his head on the ice machine, and the nurse is like, are you okay? And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. And he was like in a daze, because he was like, what the heck, right?
These were just like a blur.
Yeah, because within like 15 minutes they were like, oh, baby's gonna be here in like less than 10 minutes, we gotta go. And I remember him just going white in the face, and I'm just like, what the heck is happening? So then we get into the labor and delivery room. I'm shaking. Like, I started to get the, like, labor shakes. Mm-hmm. I was, like, literally uncontrollably. I looked at the doctor. I'm like, is this normal? Like, I can't control my shakes. And she's like, yeah. She's like, it's just your adrenaline. Like, you're getting ready.
Shakes too,
yeah. It was really bad. Like, I could not control it at all. They put the IV in. We get in there. I was like, okay, like, what's happening? And she's like, well, I think the baby's going to be here in about 10 minutes or so. So I look at my husband. I'm like, call my mom. I'm like, because it was at this point, it was like 1 a.m. I'm like, you need to call my mom. You need to call your mom. Like, so my husband's on the phone with my mom. I look at the doctor, and I'm like, can I get an epidural? And she's like, we don't have time. So then I look at my husband again. I'm like, I'm going to die. I'm like,
I know.
I'm like,
she told me the other day she did it without an epidural, and I was like, what?
Yeah,
I'm like, I don't care that it was a preemie. Like, you still did it without an epidural?
Oh my gosh.
I was like, this was my worst, because my biggest fear from the second I got pregnant was missing the timing to get an epidural, and not getting to the hospital like on time, and like having the baby in the car or something. So when they said to me, like, oh, we don't have time for an epidural, I was like, okay, well, this is, like, the end of me.
Do you have a gas I can just inhale?
Is there something that you can give me? But honestly, it was painful. At that point, I think either I wasn't feeling the contractions because of all the pain, or they had stopped.
Yeah, I think that you're like in such like a constant state that it's almost like you almost go numb because it's so constant that you're like, now I just feel nothing.
Yeah, I think I was so focused on the fact that I was shaking so much, and that like I just had like, because she was like, okay, like you let us know when you're ready to push, and like we'll push, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, I gotta push. Like I feel like I have to go to the bathroom. So then I started pushing, and then it was a couple of pushes until I got like the hang of it, because there's like a certain way that they want you to push in order to like get the baby moving down.
Yeah.
And I guess when you have an epidural, you don't really feel that, right? Like,
I always found that to be so stupid. With like I got an epidural, and they were literally like, okay, like don't you feel my hand? I'm like, no. Did you guys forget you gave me numbing?
They kept asking me the same thing. Oh, don't you feel your contractions?
Yeah,
I'm
like
no,
don't
I
you feel this? Don't you feel that? I'm like, God, guys.
Like I don't
understand.
I didn't feel a single contraction, like ever.
Yeah. So me, I was feeling like the contractions that I was feeling at the end when I was crying were 8-centimeter contractions. And I was like, I don't know how like now that I look back on it, I don't know how I did that, because my pain tolerance is very, very low. Like I'm
Isn't it amazing what you can do when you have to do it?
So then once I got the hang of it, he was out in like 3 pushes, and I got to the point where I like almost gave up, because I was like, no, I can't do it anymore. Like it hurts.
Yeah.
And the doctor was like, no, you can, like, they were actually amazing. She was like, no, you can do it. I believe in you. Like, we can do this, blah, blah. And then within 15 minutes, he was out, and I was done. The first thing I did was I looked at the doctor, and I was like, did I tear? Because I didn't have an epidural. So if they had to stitch me up, I was going to feel everything.
Oh, I didn't even think
so
of that.
I was like, please don't tell me I tore. So then she's like, let me check. So she's checking, and she's like, no, nothing. I'm like, oh, thank God.
Oh,
I'm like,
my God.
if there's anything that I could say I'm truly thankful for, it was that he was a little bit smaller, and it didn't like, I mean, he was only 3 pounds, but it still hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't give myself as much credit as like women who do it naturally with like full 9-10 pound babies, but like he was 3 pounds, and that was enough. Like I said to my husband, I'm like, if we are blessed to get pregnant again and I have to, I'm like, there's no question about getting an epidural, because if it's any bigger than 3 pounds, I think I'm gonna like lose my mind.
I'm just gonna be passed the fuck out, honestly.
So then that was it. They let me do a little bit of skin to skin, so like they put him on my chest for like, it was not even a minute, and then they had to take him into the resuscitation room, and I didn't see him. Well, he went into the resuscitation room. They were waiting for my placenta to come out, but that's a whole other story, because then I ended up having to get it manually removed because it didn't come out.
What does that mean?
Yeah, how do they manually?
What does that mean?
So they like.
What does that mean?
Yeah, basically.
Wait, what? They basically just like
they put their hand in there.
Fist you and grab it?
Yeah, they put their hand in there, and they have to like maneuver it out.
The baby was probably smaller than someone's fist.
Oh yeah.
So
oh my God.
I went.
Did you get the epidural for that?
No, so I went almost 2 hours sitting there, basically like lying on a bed, waiting for my placenta to come out. And then I got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm like, I can't lie here anymore. I'm like, and this has to be dangerous. Like, my placenta has been in me for like 2 hours. I'm like, there's got to be something. So then she came in and she kept checking me, and I had to endure. After that, I went through about another 5 like cervical checks of her like shoving her hand right up there to see how far down because then once you give birth, your uterus starts to contract down.
Yes.
And then the placenta is supposed to just come out naturally. But because I was PPROM, it makes your placenta stickier. So it's harder for it to come out.
Oh my God.
So then at the like 1 hour 45 minute mark, she's like, okay, like she's like, I don't think it's gonna come out naturally. Like I think we need to do she's like, we need to remove it manually. And I'm like, okay, well, what does that mean? And she's like, we're gonna bring you into the OR, and she's like, essentially I need to just go in there and like maneuver it out slowly. She's like, normally I would suggest you get an epidural. She's like, but you've been handling me going in there pretty well, so I think you can do it.
I was faking it. Give me the epidural. That was a fake.
Okay, so what do you think was worse, getting the placenta removed or labor?
So I didn't experience the placenta getting removed, because then they gave me, it was supposed to be light sedation, but I ended up falling asleep. So I woke up.
Okay. You should have started with that.
So I woke up and they were like, okay, we're done. I'm like, oh, okay. And I just
that's great. Okay.
So, yeah, because I think I'm like very sensitive to like anesthesia.
Yeah.
So I think like as soon as he put in, he's like, I'm just going to give you a mild sedative, blah, blah, blah.
And
all I remember was he's like, okay. And then I fell asleep. And I remember waking up and she's like, we're done, Bianca. I'm like, okay, sure. No problem. And then my husband, you know, like the weirdo that he is, he's like examining the placenta and the thing. He's like, ew, it's so gross. I'm like, why are you looking at it? I'm like, let them take it away. I didn't even see mine because I was still lying there because they were waiting to see, before they could transfer me back, my bleeding had to slow down. So they were basically they kept coming in every like hour to check me to make sure my uterus was contracting and that my bleeding was slowing down. So yeah, and then after that, they were really nice, the NICU team. They brought him into our room before they brought him upstairs to the NICU.
Oh, that's good.
So we got to see him. But at that point, it was so scary because he came in, he was wrapped in plastic to keep him warm. He had an IV in. He was so swollen from coming out, like from all the water that he retained from labor. So it was really scary, but obviously we were happy that he was fine and he was like doing well. He was on like the lowest form of breathing support, which was good. So that was it. And then I stayed in labor and delivery for a little while. My husband went up to see him. My mother-in-law came, so he took him up. And then once I got brought back to antenatal, I was able to go up and see him in the NICU. So it was like, I don't know, the experience was kind of crazy. Like I always say that my labor story was like nuts because it happened like all within the span of an hour, and I was like, what the heck? So I kind of had a little bit of trauma from that, but then also like, okay, now my baby's in the NICU, and like now, yeah, like within 24 hours I was discharged, but I was like, I'm going home without my baby. Like it was very like scary because I was like, this is weird. Like I was pregnant, I gave birth, and now I get to go home, but my baby has to stay here.
Yeah.
So that was like a big adjustment. And at first we were like, okay, like we'll just stay overnight. Like we'll stay at the hospital a couple of nights a week. But we did that the first night that I got discharged. I went home, I changed, brought all my stuff back. Then we came back and the nurse was like, are you staying here overnight? And I was like, yeah. I'm like, it's his first night. Like I don't want to go home. And she's like, you're not going to be able to sleep here.
Sorry.
Bless you.
Sorry.
It's okay. She's like, you're not going to be able to sleep here. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, it's too much. Because at that point, they were coming in every 6 hours to like do a diaper change and check on him. Like they would come in more often, but in the beginning, they do very like low touch because they want to prevent brain bleeds. So they do it every 6 hours. Then it ended up switching to every 3. So for the first 48 or I think it was 72 hours, it was minimal touching. So they didn't really let us go in. They would do like the diaper changes, and they would have to change like his, I don't think they changed his feeding tube at any point in that time. But when they were coming in, like the lights in the room would come on. They would do whatever they had to do. Yeah. So like you're not getting a full night's sleep.
Yeah.
So then plus at Mount Sinai they had like we got lucky in our room, we had like a bench, but it was like rock hard.
Yeah.
And then we had like the lounge chair, the same chair that was in my room. Mm-hmm. So it was like, where are we gonna sleep? So then after that I just said, okay, you know what? I'll come, I spend the days here, and then I'll go home, sleep at home. Yeah. And then come back. So that's what I was doing every day. So from the day he was born on April 15th until we got transferred to Cortellucci at the beginning of June-ish. Wow. Or like maybe end of May. I was every day waking up, going downtown. So I would take the subway. I'd go down to Mount Sinai. I'd spend the day there, and then I'd come back. So I'd get up. I'd be down there by at least 8:39 because they used to do like rounds with the doctors at 9 o'clock. So I'd be down there by like 8:30, 9 o'clock, sometimes 9:30, depending on like traffic and stuff. And then I'd get back home by like 9 o'clock. And then I would eat, sleep, and do it all again. So I literally did that for like 2 months. And yeah, and like it was, I would say it was very traumatic. Like it's not a normal experience. And
you thought you would bring your baby home with you, start your family, start your in-house routine, like, and doing that for 3 months it probably felt long, tiring. When is this gonna end? When can I bring my baby home? Like 3 months is a long time.
I remember going into his room the next day, and I got in there, and I literally just started bawling. And my husband comes in, and he's like, "What happened?" Because he thought like I was crying because something was wrong. Yeah. And I was like, "He's just so cute. Like, look at him." And like he's in. It was like I always said to my husband, it felt like we were looking at like an artifact because you couldn't. Like the incubator was closed. You could, if you wanted to touch him, it was through these little like holes in the incubator, and it was such a like weird
It wasn't the norm. Like, it wasn't the experience you thought you'd have as, like, your first child coming into this world.
Yeah,
Do you know
it was
what I mean?
definitely, like, traumatic. And they say, the first thing they say to you when you get into the NICU is, like, that at some point this is all going to be a distant memory. And you're just going to, like, look back on it as, like, an experience you went through. But you won't, not that you won't remember it, but it'll just be all in the past once you get home. But in the moment, it was, like, when it, like you said, like, when is this gonna end? Like,
how long? See the light at the end.
Yeah, like, how long is this gonna take? Like, and then in the beginning they said, like, he could be in here until his due date, and that was like he was due July 7th and he was born April 15th. So I said to my husband, I'm like, we're now gonna, like, the first couple of months of his life is, like, spent in a hospital, and we're just every day going back and forth, and, like, it was crazy. Like, we did nothing for ourselves. It was just go home, sleep, go back to the hospital. Go home, sleep, go back to the hospital. And Mount Sinai, it's downtown, so it was a trek. Like, every single day, I'm getting on the subway, lugging everything down with me, going down, staying there the whole day. And majority of the time, I was there by myself because my husband had to go back to work. I was on mat leave at that time. Like, once he was born, I hit mat leave, so I was by myself most days. And what got me through it was, when I was admitted for the 5 weeks, I met a lot of women on that floor who were going through the same thing as me. So, well, not exactly. So some of them were PPROM, some of them were short cervix, some of them were placenta previa. So all these different things that caused them to be admitted early. And then I kind of, like, it's kind of weird, but I, like, kind of started, like, the train. Because then once I went into labor, there was another girl that I met who our due dates were 2 days apart. This is, like, kind of crazy. So our due dates were 2 days apart. Her water broke, I think, a week before mine, but she didn't go into the hospital until about, like, I don't know. I think she was admitted, like, a week before I went into labor. Mm-hmm. And then I went into labor. She went into labor 5 days later. Our babies were born at the exact same weight, and they're both named Noah. Oh. And they're only, like, 2 days apart, like, in gestational and in thing. So she was the first mom that I, like, connected with in the NICU, because then a lot of the moms were still on the other floor. But what got me through it was having other moms who were going either through the same experience or who were going through something else and they were in the hospital for
having that community.
You know, like, it just makes a difference knowing you're not alone in something. Yes, it does. It makes you feel better. It makes you feel that, like, it's gonna be okay. This is normal. This is common. Like, because, like, I know you and I went for breakfast, and I said to you, like I kind of made a comment, like, that this doesn't happen, and you're like, actually, this is very common.
Yes,
like, premature babies and, like, babies ending up in NICU is very common. You were saying to me.
So you don't realize it until it happens to you. But then, like, everyone that I was meeting on the floor was like, oh yeah, I'm PPROM too. Like, I met a girl whose water broke at 18 weeks, another girl whose water broke at 22, another girl whose water broke at 26. So I was like, this is, first of all, you wonder, like, why is this so common? Why is this happening?
Yeah, why is it?
But then also, like, you realize, like, okay, like, I'm not the only one that this is happening to. There's other people that are going through it. And then once you go into the NICU, like, once you become a NICU family, Mount Sinai is amazing for showing you experiences that are successful. So, like, all along their walls in the hallway, like, before you enter in the NICU, they have all stories of babies who were born at, like, 22 weeks, 23 weeks, however much
it's
is
like a hallway of hope.
Hallway of hope. I love that.
And
you should trademark that.
Hey,
Mount Sinai, you need a name for your hallway?
And it's success stories, right? But that's what helped me, because even my mom said, like, reading these stories makes you feel so much better about what you're going through, because you know that there's,
you don't go down that dark tunnel because
there's a light. There's a light.
Yeah, and then even going in, they have a whole wall of NICU graduates. So there's pictures of, like, when they were born and then when they graduated, and you can see, like, okay, this is something that happens often, which they should probably figure out why it's happening so often. But then also, it happens so often. But now look at all these babies that are, like, they're doing great, right? And you see a lot of them, and they're, like, most of the time, once they hit, like, a year or 2 years, you wouldn't even be able to tell they're a preemie, because
I wonder if isn't there an ultrasound, like the cervix ultrasound? Does anyone know what I'm talking about, where they put, like, the camera up you? Like, I wonder if, like,
an internal ultrasound.
Oh, it's just called internal ultrasound?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. I wonder, like, if they did that at, like, 12 weeks, if, like, it can determine for women, like, oh, like, this might happen. Like, if they did that to you and they would have seen that your placenta was abnormally growing, like...
Yeah, but that's the thing, though. Is that a visual thing, or is that something that has to be, like, biopsied? You know what I mean?
Good question.
Like this problem with her placenta, is that something that you could see on a picture? Or is that something you could see, like, under a microscope?
Yeah, well, that's how we could prevent this happening in the future.
Yeah, so...
Because, like, you saying how common it is, like, how do we make this not common?
Yeah, well, I mean, prematurity happens for a bunch of different reasons.
No, but even, like, the water
breaking is, a lot more common than people would think. And I actually, so then once I started going through it, and, like, people started hearing about why I was admitted to the hospital, why I was admitted. Then when my baby, like, when he was born prematurely, a lot of people, like, I had one of my friends from work say to me, like, oh, this happened with both of my boys. Like, both of my boys were born prematurely. And with her second, they were able actually to like, figure out that it was going to happen again, and they put her on bed rest. So it, like, prevented it. So when I did my 6-week follow-up with, like, the doctor from Mount Sinai, she said to me, like, your next pregnancy is going to be high risk. Like, there's no way to avoid it. It's just because of what happened in your first pregnancy. Mm-hmm. And she's like, but there are things that we can do for your next pregnancy to ensure that we're, like, doing what we can to help your placenta grow properly.
Yeah, unfortunately, you have to go through fucking hell so that you could prevent it.
Yeah.
But you will never know the prevention methods unless you've
gone
down that way.
Yeah. And it's crazy because you think, like, I look back on it now and I'm like, how the heck did I how did I survive that? Like, how did I go there every single day and, like, sit there and watch him? Essentially, I think he went through a very good NICU experience. Like, we were blessed that he didn't have many complications.
Yeah.
So, like, the most that happened when he was in the NICU is that he got an eye infection. He had, like, an IV burn on his foot at one point.
God.
So that was, like, healing. And he has, like, a little scar from it now. But, like, other than his eye infection and the fact that, like, when we got transferred into Cortellucci, a couple weeks in, he had to have a blood transfusion. Like, that was really the most of his care, right?
Yeah.
And I met some moms who, like, their babies were on, like, ventilators for, like, weeks, and then they get off of the ventilators and they have issues with their lungs, or they develop sepsis, like, they go into septic shock, or they needed this or this and this. So, like, I always said to my husband, like, it could be so much worse, and like, we're so blessed that he was bigger, that he made it. Like, he waited it out.
He did his best in a shitty situation.
And he waited it out till like, when we got into the hospital, they said to me, your goal right now is to get to 28 weeks, and he was born at 28 and 1. So it was kind of like he heard it and he was like, okay, no problem.
I can do it.
I'll sit tight till 28.
The assignment.
I'll sit tight till 28, but then I'm getting the hell out of here.
Yeah.
And that was it. And then he was like, it was just literally like the doctors would say to us, like, he's pretty low maintenance. Like, we just need him to grow. And then that's what it was. He was just growing. And he got to 5 pounds pretty quickly. And then once he was off, like, he went on to the lowest form of breathing support. Then they were like, okay, well, he can transfer to a level 2 now. And then that was scary to me because Mount Sinai has such great, like, care. Like, they're amazing. Yeah. And going to another hospital where the care was a little bit less, like, they say when you go to a level 2, they're preparing you to go home. So, like, now the care goes on to you. Yeah. And the nurses are kind of just there as a precautionary. So they'll show you what to do. If you're not there, obviously they're going to take care of your kid. But you're taking the reins, essentially. Yeah. So that was really scary.
The transition phase, I guess.
Like, there was one time where they had lifted his incubator, so the top of his incubator was lifted off, and that's when I really started to feel like, okay, now this is a baby, like, because before we weren't really doing much. Yeah. So you're just looking at him through an incubator, and it's like, what the heck, like, but you develop a strength that you kind of, like, didn't even know that you had within you, because you're like, okay, well, I have to be strong. And my husband would always say to me, like, don't cry in front of him. Like, he's going to be able to sense that you're upset. And I'm like, I get it, but at the same time, like, look at my child. Like, this is my first baby, and he's attached to all... Like, every time they had to do an IV on him, I would bawl my eyes out. Yeah. Whenever they had to do any kind of procedure, I would bawl my eyes out. And then when they were like, okay, well, we're going to transfer him to a level 2, I cried, because I was like, what do you mean? I'm like, he's not ready to go to a level 2. Like, look at him, he's a baby, like, he needs the care. But they were like, no, he doesn't, like, he's doing well. So we transferred into Cortellucci, and that was, like, a nightmare in itself, because you would think that a newer hospital would be great, but I had a horrible experience with the NICU there, and I couldn't leave. So I was basically back to like living in a hospital when I got to Cordalucci. So I got there, and the first night I stayed because I'm like, I'm not leaving. Like, I don't know any of these nurses. I don't know any of the doctors. I don't know what they're going to do with him.
Yeah.
And then it got to the point where I was like, okay, well, now I can't leave because we went through, like, scenarios where he was, like, he had to get an IV, and he got poked, like, 7 times in one shot. And I was like, what is happening? Or I left for an hour to go home, and I come back, and he's, like, face down with his breathing support out of his nose, and he had blood all over his nose.
Oh my God.
And the nurse was like nowhere to be found. And I said to my husband, I'm like, this is why I don't leave, because like,
oh my God,
what is happening?
You told me these stories.
Yeah. So
tell them the rule though about getting poked, because I didn't know that. I think it's important.
So that's something important. So when I was at Mount Sinai, they told me, because I have very small veins, so like, and I had to do blood work every 3 days. So they would come and they would try to poke me, and one of the nurses said to me, I'm only allowed to poke you twice, and then after 2 times I have to get someone else to do it. So I knew that rule going into Cordalucci, and when they were poking him to put an IV in, and then I came back, because I left the room, and I said to my husband, the nurse that was doing it, I didn't trust her, so I said to him, you need to stay in the room, because I can't watch it happen. Yeah. I'm like, but I don't trust her, so you need to stay there. And she actually ended up asking him to leave, and he was like, no, I'm not leaving. He's like, this is my child, and you're performing a procedure on him. I'm like, I'm not. He's like, I'm not leaving this room. Yeah. So she, I think, was getting frustrated because he was like watching her like a hawk, but rightfully so, because this is my child, and I want to know what you're doing to him. Yeah. So that's when she ended up, when I came back, I said to my husband, I'm like, how many times did they poke him? And he was like, I don't know. He's like, I lost count. And then I look at him, and he has like 2 bandages on one leg, 2 bandages on the other leg, 2 bandages on one hand, 1 bandage on one side, then the IV. So I'm like, I'm counting the bandages. I'm like, this was like 7 times.
Oh my God.
So then I ended up writing an email at Cordalucci because I was so fed up after the incident with me coming back, and he was like lying on a towel like with blood, and his nose was bleeding. And then that same night, this thing with the IV happened. So I ended up writing like a 5-paragraph email. And I said to them in that email, I said, I'm pretty sure that when somebody pokes a patient twice, that's it. Like, you're done. You're supposed to get someone else to do it. And then when they came to talk to me, they were like, oh, sometimes like there's only like a few people, like senior staff that are qualified. And I'm like, well, that's on you guys, because you shouldn't have only one person who's qualified to do an IV on a baby in a NICU. Yeah. I'm like, you should have at least 2 or 3 people working. And if you only have one person, then that one person should be like a superstar at it.
I think every nurse has to be qualified to do IVs, because my cousin's a nurse, and I know that like she was trained on doing IVs. I don't know if it's different for babies.
I think they're all trained, but I think some of them, like at that day, the nurse that we had was a junior nurse, and I think she just wasn't comfortable doing it on him. So they got the charge nurse to do it. But like for being a charge nurse and having experience, you shouldn't have to poke him 7 times to get it done, right? And then I remember talking to somebody that I know who's a nurse, and she said like, because basically they were getting it, and every time they would get it, the vein would blow. And she was like, if they're getting it and the vein blows, they're not doing it properly. Like, they're not inserting the needle properly.
Oh my God.
And she's like, and I said, well, you would think that a charge nurse would insert it, like know how to do that, right? So I was already so fed up, because I was like, we've been in a hospital for so long. When I got to Cordalucci, it was even worse. I was just like, I am so tired of being in a hospital. Like, I'm like, I want to go home.
Especially if like you're with incompetent people. Yeah. It makes it like even more like, oh.
And that's why and then I remember breaking down at Cordalucci, and I was like, I want to go. I had so many breakdowns over that like 3-month period. I remember having one really big one at the hospital when they told me, because initially they said to me, around 27, 28 weeks, we can transfer you to Cordalucci and you'll be able to like deliver there. And then at my 27-week mark hit, and they were like, oh no, we have to wait till 30 weeks. So I had a breakdown then, because I said to my husband, I'm like, I'm tired. I'm tired of being in a hospital. I'm tired of sitting here every day and staring at the walls. I'm tired of like the most exciting thing I do every day is go downstairs and like walk around the indigo that was at the bottom of the hospital. Like, yeah. I'm like, I can't do it anymore. I can't be here. And it was kind of like, I don't know. It was like, to me, I think at some point God was like, okay, maybe he's she's gone through enough, because then I hit my 28-week mark and I went into labor, and then I was able to be discharged, but then I was like, okay, now that part of this is over and I don't have to be stuck in a hospital, but now my baby's stuck in a hospital, so I'm there. So then when we got to Cortalucci, I had another breakdown because I said to my husband, I'm like, I'm done. I'm like, I'm done with this. I'm like, I'm done with dealing with nurses. I'm done with coming to a hospital every day. I'm like, then from end of May to end of June, I was sleeping on the bed that was in the room, which was a lot more comfortable than Mount Sinai, but it also wasn't as comfortable as my bed. Like, I think I like broke my back over those 3 months. And then I just got to a point where I was like, I'm so fed up. Like, I want my baby to be discharged. I want to take him home, and I just want to start like our life healing with a baby. Yeah, like I want to just get over the situation. We're so like traumatized that we're at the point right now where we're like, do we want a second one? Like, do I want to put myself through that again? Like, with the potential of it happening again? Yeah. Like, we do want 2 children, but then I also said to my husband, I'm like, first of all, they told me you have to wait at least, like, we recommend waiting a year, like, let your body heal and everything, which was our plan anyways. But for me now, I said to my husband, I'm like, I don't even know if I want to wait a year. I'm like, maybe 2 years. Like, I feel like I need to, like, get over that. You mean,
like, a year just for him, like, the child, and then a year for you.
Yeah, for me to just, like, because they said to me that there's a 15% chance of it happening again, but the good thing in their eyes is if it does happen again, it won't happen before the 28-week mark, because now my body knows, like, pregnancy up until 28 weeks. Okay. So I guess, like, if it happens again, my body won't go into labor until that 28-week mark, which I guess is good, but even, like, 28 weeks to full term is crazy. Like, when he was born...
12 weeks, right?
Yeah, like, when he was born, my husband said to me, like, okay, like, it's just, like, it's 10-ish more weeks. Like, by the time everything was said and done, we were at our 30-week mark, and he's like, it's only 10 more weeks, and I'm like, that's a lot of time. I'm like, it's... Yeah. And I would say to him, like, he was great during everything, like, staying with me at the hospital, being so supportive during my labor, and, like, afterwards being there whenever he could. But I said to him, I'm like, you're going through it, but you're not going through it as much as I am, because you you weren't confined to a hospital room for 5 weeks. I'm like, you would get up, you would go to work in the morning, like, you would
His
still...
routine didn't change as much as yours did.
Like, okay, you were coming to sleep at the hospital, which I'm so grateful that he did, because I think I would have been my mental state would have been much worse if I didn't have him there with me every night. Yeah. But I also was trying to get him to understand, like, this is my entire day. Like, I don't do anything other than, and, like, I would sometimes just go and, like, take a shower, and I would just start bawling in the shower, because I'm like, what am I going through right now? What is happening? Like, why am I stuck in a hospital for all this time? And then
you had your newborn mom journey taken away from you. That's what happened. You didn't get to experience, like, you do still experience it now, like, at home, but, like, the experience that, like, you see on Instagram and in movies and, like, what everyone does, you didn't get that. Yes. So, like, you had that robbed from you. So, like, yeah, it affects you.
I feel like any time when you have expectations about something and it ends up being totally different, I think there honestly needs to be, like, a grieving period. Mm-hmm. You grieve what could have been. You grieve, what you thought was going to happen. So I get that. Yeah, not having a regular labor experience. Yeah. And the way I see it is, and, like, I've said this, like, a lot of times, and a lot of the other NICU moms have said, like, oh, I've never, like, thought of it that way. But I said to my husband, I'm like, I just like to think of it as, like, okay, he was supposed to be born in July. He was born in April, so we just got 3 extra months with him that we wouldn't have had, because that's cute too. He was supposed to be inside, right? Yeah. So I said we get 3 extra months of his life that we wouldn't have got if I went full term, because he would have still been in my stomach. So I tried to look at it that way, like, it's more time with him than we expected to have. Yeah, it's not, like, the time that we wanted to have with him. Like, it's not ideal.
Love to have him at home, but we got to kind of see him grow, and it's cool in a way, because you get to see them, like, develop. Like, you have all these apps when you're pregnant, and you're like, oh, the baby is starting to grow fingernails, or the baby's like developing this today, or the baby's eyes, or whatever. Like, his eyes weren't fused shut when he was born, so they were open, but I kept my apps going, so I didn't, like, basically change them as if I had my baby. So I would look at all of like the milestones, and then you would see it like kind of like
happening
in real life.
Yeah.
Wow. You'd be like, oh yeah, like he's developing this today. Oh, he's like shedding his hair today, or whatever it is. So it was like a cool experience, but also a traumatic experience at the same time.
So what's the prognosis for your son? Do they have any idea of like how this will affect him in the long term? Like, you know, they kept saying all this thing about disability.
Yeah.
Is this something that you're going to have to, like, kind of monitor as time goes on? Or...
So I think, essentially, he's, like, we can expect him to be... So, they say that, technically, he should be 3 months behind developmentally. So, but, like, we took him to the pediatrician a couple weeks ago, and I said to the pediatrician, like... I don't know why I was so stuck on, like, oh, when is he going to start solids, or when is he going to start eating, like, purees, right? Like, I don't know. I was just thinking about it.
Yeah.
So I said to the doctor, I'm like, okay, like, technically, because he had just hit full term, he was, like, 2 weeks old. I was like, okay, so technically right now he's 2 weeks old, but he's 3 months, like, he's 2 weeks corrected, but 3 months birth age. I'm like, so in terms of, like, something like solids, for example, like, are we expecting him to be, like, 3 months delayed? So, like, if a baby normally starts purees around... I think he said it was between like 4 to 6 months.
Yeah.
I'm like, do we expect a 3 month delay?
Are you doing like a 6 to 9 month instead?
Yeah. So he did say he's like technically he's gonna be behind developmentally 3 months. He's like, but it all depends on him. So like for example, right now he's already starting to lift his head during tummy time. He's a lot more alert than like you know you guys remember newborns, like you bring them home and they're like sleepy, like they do nothing, right? For me right now, he feels like he's like a 1 2 month old. Like he's starting to be more active. He's starting to make like different sounds. When I do tummy time, like he's lifting his head up. He actually last week just started tracking. So like when I show him like objects, he'll follow them.
Oh, okay.
Which is I think it's like a 2 to 3 month milestone. Okay. So like
so he's.
Yeah, like he's
kind of like on it.
Like he's almost 4 months. So
if you considered him like a typical 3 month old, then he would be aligned with that.
So I said to my husband, I'm like, he wouldn't be tracking if he was 3 weeks old. I'm like, but he's kind of, I would say like maybe he's a month behind. Yeah, like
okay.
So it just depends.
Closing up the gap a little bit.
Yeah, and they did one thing they did tell us is that preemies grow at a faster rate than normal babies because they're catching up. And they have more time, I guess, like they're more time out of the womb, so they have more time, I guess, to develop.
To practice all these super fun things.
So like I don't know.
So are you getting a sleep regression next month, or we don't know yet?
we actually already went through a sleep regression.
Oh, okay.
And I think now he's starting to go through. I think he's going through a growth spurt now because he's cluster feeding for the last couple of days. And last night he had like a little, like he was up from like 4 to 6. And the last time we had a sleep regression, same thing. He kept me up from like 12 to 4 and then knocked out for 2 days in a row. Mm-hmm. And then he went through a growth spurt. And I just weighed him this morning like with me. And he's about like 10 pounds now. So nice. I think he's going through a little bit of a growth spurt. I'm hoping that it's not going to affect his development too much because he was technically a little bit ahead of the game already. Yeah,
that's the thing too, right?
Yeah, like, so I think he was a little bit more developed than like a typical 28-weeker. Yeah. But I don't know, like they said, like
it might not be as big as what they're thinking.
You just have to, you have to kind of train your mind to start thinking as like a preemie mom. So like, he's 3 months old, but what's his corrected age and where should he be at in that sense? Because like, if next year in April he's not walking, I'll probably cry. But like, it's not normal. Like it's normal, right? Like he technically might not be walking until July.
I know a lot of people whose kids were born on their due date after their due date, and it's 16 months they weren't walking.
Yeah,
like
I mean me, like
my nephew, I think he's 16 months. He's not walking yet.
Yeah, see, so it's different for every kid.
My sister was the same though, so she wasn't walking I think she started walking at 16 months.
Yeah, my first was walking at 8, and then my other one I was like, buddy, if you don't walk by your birthday, you're not getting a birthday.
I started walking at 9 months, so my mom is like, oh, maybe, I don't know, but he has like even his legs, like he has a lot of strength in his legs. Yeah. He's very like vocal now. He's very alert, so like I don't know. I just like if there's one thing that I could just like remind like NICU moms is like you always have to look at it like okay, where should he be developmentally?
Yeah.
Instead of like, oh, he's 3 months. Like, sometimes I catch myself comparing him to like my friend's baby who's 3 months, who's like 12 pounds and like holding her head up on her own, and like, and I'm like, no, I'm like, he's a 3 month baby, like they're only a week apart, but he's technically only 3 weeks old. Yeah. So in terms of that, he's doing like amazing because he's holding his head up. Like what 3 week old holds their head up during tummy time, right?
Yeah.
So it's just, you have to just like take it day by day, and it's definitely a like long journey. Like when he was first born, I felt like it was gonna be forever, and when you're in it, it feels like it's gonna be forever, and then you finally get to like the end, and you're like, okay, like we made it. Like, we're okay. Like we're home. Like the day that we brought him home, I was like, this feels so weird. I'm like, we put him in the car seat.
You didn't think it would ever happen.
Yeah, we put him in the car seat, and my husband's like, my husband was actually scared. He's like, I think it's too early. He's like, I don't think he should be going home. And I'm like, babe, he's 38 weeks. I'm like, we need to go home. Yeah. I'm like, don't you dare say to the doctor, like, no, we're not ready. I'm like, we're ready. We're going home.
Yeah.
And that was it. And then you go home, and like, you have a lot of anxieties. Like, I think anxieties that I was going to have with a newborn are just like 10 times more heightened. Yeah. Like I have,
because he's more delicate.
Like I have an owlet that we use at night, and the other day it like disconnected from the Wi-Fi, and my husband's like, "Do we even still need that?" I'm like, "Yes, we do still need that." I'm like, I'm not, and I don't rely on it. Like during the day he doesn't have it on; he only uses it at night. But it's like I'm not going to be able to sleep unless that's on him, because when he was
you need the peace of mind.
Yeah, when he was in the hospital, he was having like episodes where he would stop breathing. Or he would feed and he would choke and he would stop breathing. Yeah. Like one time I was sitting in Cortalucci, I was holding him, I'm feeding him, and he started like choking and he went blue. And the nurses like ran in, and I had to like smack him on the back. But I was like, if that happens to me at home, like I think I'm actually going to have a heart attack. Like, how do you respond to that? So I said to my husband, I'm like, I know it's expensive, like it was pricey. I actually ended up getting it on sale, but I'm like, right now it's just something that needs to be.
That's a necessity.
Yeah,
I get that.
And I'm also so anxious that I'm like, I can't leave him. Like I won't leave him alone overnight. Like this year I have 2 bachelorettes, and I'm not even going to them because I'm like, I can't go away for 2 days and be.
That's fair.
So it's just a lot of.
Understand.
Your anxieties get a lot more heightened as a NICU mom, but you learn to.
You've been through a lot. Like I said, this is the year you focus on him, and next year, hopefully that gives you the time for you to actually. Because right now I think you're just in like survival.
Yeah.
And I think when he hits that year mark, you're gonna be. Yeah. You can now focus on yourself.
Yeah, I mean I healed really well, so that's like one thing that I'm really grateful for, and I got through like that postpartum phase. Like I was really worried about going through postpartum depression, and like especially because I didn't have that newborn experience that I wanted, so I was really scared of like kind of going into like that state. But I think I just do my best to focus on like, okay, he's here, and it could have been a lot different. And so it's just like every day I'm like, I like count my blessings basically.
For sure.
He was born.
Sure. He's a fighter.
Yeah, he made it through. He's very strong and resilient, and that.
Yeah, but so are you.
Yeah.
Right? Like he did his part, and you did your part.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was a joint effort, and you know, you guys are gonna be. I want to like talk to you in a year from now.
Yeah.
I want to like do this again in a year from now, and I want like a full update.
Yeah. I know, yeah. I feel like on his first birthday, we're gonna look back and we're gonna be like,
we did it.
Yeah, like what the heck?
I think that it should just be like a party for yourself as well.
I know.
It should be like, we did.
Well, I said to my mom, like, I want to do something big for his first birthday. Like, I know first birthdays are supposed to be big, but like he deserves it. Like we all deserve it a lot more than like anything else, 100%. Right? Because we went through so much.
It's a celebration for not just him making it the year, but like as you as well.
Yeah, getting through all of that. And like being able to go through that journey. Yeah. It's hard, but you get through it. You become a lot stronger than you think you are.
100%.
And you go through a lot. Yeah.
Well, thank you
thank you so much. Bianca,
that was amazing. No problem. God bless you and your little guy. Like I said, in 1 year, we need to write this down. We need to do this again.
Yeah. Let's see where he's at.
Are you going to make the cake?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think I want to even do his baptism.
Bianca makes cakes.
I think I want to do
Sweet
his
Creations by B, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that too, I had to put that on hold because you like just become like he becomes your main focus. Like being a mom becomes your main focus. And now it's like, okay, well, I want to start doing stuff for me too, right?
Yeah,
like
for sure. That takes time.
Yeah. So, but yeah,
everyone will get where they need to be.
Yeah.
Everything falls into place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And on that note, we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening / watching.
Take care.